All right, so where we left off before the weekend is that Haman had just made gallows 75 feet tall because Mordecai still refuses to bow down to him and to honor him. So now what we've got in chapter 6 is you've got this transition from the time Esther asked in chapter 5 to do this banquet for Haman and for the king, and now you've got the night, and King Ahasuerus in the beginning of chapter 6 can't sleep. Now I can identify with that because sometimes I just can't sleep. It's not like I don't want to sleep. It's not like I'm trying to like stay up and have a good time. It's literally that I just cannot sleep. And so actually last night was one of those. It was like 1 something in the morning before I was able to get in bed and go to sleep. So King Ahasuerus is laying there. He's trying to go to sleep, can't. So, and a lot of times what they'd have during that time is they would call for someone to read something to them and read their past acts, the history of them as king. And so someone comes and reads that for him, and they get to the part, now remember I said this was important in chapter 2, they get to the part where they remember that Mordecai discovered a plot to kill the king back in chapter 2. Remember there was 2 men in the gate that were talking about killing the king, and so Mordecai tells it up through Esther, or tells it up through his men in the gate, and they stop it. They found it to be credible because they were trying to kill him. And so they hang those 2 men, and Mordecai didn't get anything for it. It was just written down. In fact, in chapter 2, it says it was logged away in the king's journal. So you have this issue now. The king is sitting there. He's listening to this, and all of a sudden he thinks to himself, wait a minute. What was done for Mordecai that honored him? And they said there's nothing that's been done. And so then he's trying to think of a way to honor Mordecai. So he looks at his helpers, and he says, now, wait, who's in the gate to help me decide this? Talking about the king's area, the political area. And it just so happens that Haman is in the king's area. And so they bring Haman in. And the king doesn't start off with, hey, I want to honor Mordecai. How do we do it? He starts off by saying, what do you think should be done for the man whom the king delights to honor? Well, Haman has been invited to this banquet with the king. He thinks it's him. So he starts getting excited. And he goes, oh man, the royal robe should be put on him. He should be on the king's royal horse. He should be walked throughout the streets of the city with someone proclaiming, that this man is the one whom the king delights to honor. And so the king just looks at him and goes, all right, do it for Mordecai. Could you imagine, like, if you're there in the room and Haman's thinking it's for him, and then all of a sudden the man he hates name comes out of the king's mouth for him to honor? I mean, my goodness, it's like the worst drama ever. So anyways, Mordecai has to, Haman has to take Mordecai through the streets saying, this is the man in whom the king delights to honor. He goes home and says that his head covered and hidden because he was so ashamed. And his wife even now looks at him and says, hey, if the king wants to honor Mordecai and he finds out he's a Jew and you're trying to kill all the Jews, you're dead, buddy. And that's how chapter 6 ends. So we'll see tomorrow what it's like when the banquet rolls around.